Now, after being attacked by a cyclist who he'd stopped because they were riding on the pavement, Lord Robert Winston is now calling for all bikes to have a licence plate, meaning that cyclists can then be easily identifiable.
Beside him is Dave Sherry. Dave has been dubbed Britain's most hated cyclist after footage captured on his helmet cam has led to convictions of, wait for this, over 800 drivers. Gentlemen, good morning. Good to see you both. Lord Winston, first of all, this incident, which led you to make this call for having number plates on bikes. Tell us what happened, because this involved you on a pavement, but also bicycles on a pavement. Not just one. There were a number of.
Yeah, I was
bicycles.
hit by a bicycle that hit my computer bag, and then 2 minutes later, this girl brushed past me, and because she couldn't go as fast as the male, because there were by that time people on the pavement, I managed to get in front of her bike and stop her. And she was extremely aggressive and very, very unpleasant. And she snatched my phone, tried to trash it. I was rescued by 2 passers-by who offered to act as witnesses to the police.
She kicked you as well,
because she kicked me repeatedly, yeah.
Why? Why this bike rage?
Extraordinary. I mean, I think it's really very, very disappointing because, of course, the great majority of bicyclists are perfectly law-abiding, perfectly peaceful people. But increasingly, in some inner city centres, there's massive aggression from some cyclists, which is completely unacceptable because they break the law. And you can't break the law without any kind of intervention by the law. That's the issue. Otherwise, the law's a nonsense.
What did you actually say to her? Did you say?
I said, look, you realise you can't cycle on a crowded pavement. There were children and women and old people on that. It's in Bloomsbury. You can't. It's dangerous. I didn't shout at her. I mean, I was perfectly.
Why didn't you report her to the police?
Well, you know, the police contacted me actually because they wanted me to report it. But the fact was that I didn't have any identification of her, and although I probably would recognise her again, the chances of her being picked up by a camera were so remote, I didn't bother.
OK, and this is why you want these...
And also, I was really busy, actually, to be fair.
But you think if you had a number for which to reference...
Well, you know, you're a bit premature because there are a number of ways that we could identify bikes, from electronic tagging, for example, to the insistence on wearing a high-visibility jacket with a number on the back, to possibly a number plate. There are a whole range of things that we could do. And what it turns out is that there's massive support for this in the House of Lords, and surprisingly considerable support in the House of Commons. And 80% of bicyclists who've written to me have either apologised or said, look, you know, we think that this is a good idea.
OK, well,
let's
find out.
Do you think it's a good idea, Dave?
In principle, yes. In practicality, no. At the end of the day, there are good cyclists and there are bad cyclists. Don't tarnish us all with the same brush. At the end of the day, there are some very non-compliant cyclists.
Well, to be fair, Lord Winston wasn't tarring you all the same brush. He said a majority of cyclists are law-abiding. But the difference is, with bad drivers, you can identify them, which you do with your camera that you wear on your helmet all the time, because they've got a licence plate.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, I've been utilising video evidence for the last 7 years, and I've been on a roll. At the end of the day, I understand what Lord Winston's saying, but in practical terms, it's not workable, it's not doable. The only way you're going to do it, right, if I said to you, right, insurance licence, yeah, how are you going to say that to my 12-year-old son, daughter? You know what I mean? They can barely write their name.
Well,
so,
it'd be like riding in a car. You take responsibility for the
insurance
of the car.
Well, this is it. So. And at the end of the day, the highway code does state that under a certain wheel size, you're allowed to cycle on the pavement. Agreed?
Yes.
Yeah. And now what I'm saying is, at the end of the day, if you wish to do this sort of thing, then it would have to be at point of sale. So when you buy the bike, it's got a frame number. Like a TV, you just name and address it, and there you go. That's your database. And the unique number would be on the frame of the bike. Agreed?
But that's not... if I'm driving along and somebody kicks my car, I can't see the number on the frame of their bike.
With regard to the thing, if you was to do it from the manufacturing point and stick on a licence plate when you purchase the bike, it's a fixed plate, yeah? And it stays with the bike. Basically, it'd be the frame number, would be the registration plate. But then, at the end of the day, it's up to the Lords and the politicians to sort it out.
At the end of the day, this is what it boils down to. There would be, Professor, an argument that many cyclists believe that the rules of the road apply to cars, but not to them.
It's a very interesting question because, of course, every other road user has to be registered to use the road and has to have third-party insurance. I don't think it would be unworkable. I mean, the initial answers I got from government were not very satisfactory, but I think the overwhelming messages that are coming through now are that really this would be workable. And for example, with an electronic tag on a bicycle, you would, in time, we will be able to detect all motor traffic through similar methods. We won't probably use license plates eventually. And I think that actually with the number of road traffic cameras that there are around, that would make a very big difference, and I think will happen eventually.
Where do you
I don't want to stop bicycling. I must tell you, I cycled to work regularly every day, about 8.5 miles, until in fact first one bike was stolen and then a second bike was stolen.
Yes, yes.
So it's not that I'm against cyclists. I'm not at all against cyclists, but I'm against people who cross red lights, who go up wrong-way streets the wrong way, who ride on the pavement.
Yeah, and we're getting a lot of comments.
And who, in fact, don't ride with the lights at night, particularly with people who've got poor visibility or older people
we're getting
who
a lot
have
of comments
frequently
who
been
agree
hit
with you.
and damaged.
Trish says, I walk along a path every day that requires cyclists to dismount. The vast majority of them choose to ignore the signs. I've had a few new near misses as they hurtle along the path towards me. Nicola says, I saw a bike go through a red light at roadworks. I don't understand what makes them different. They act like they're a law unto themselves.
Well, I tell you, Dave, I think the thing is, rather than them and us, this divisive thing, it's amazing what you do. You're some people call you a warrior cyclist.
Vigilante.
Vigilante.
Motivated. At the end of the day,
But the main thing I want people to know about you is you're also a bus driver, right?
Yeah.
So this gives you, I mean, rather than them and us, this is about all of us being road users, isn't it? And it must make you, I mean, being in charge of a bus, it must make you a more considerate driver, bearing in mind your awareness of cycling.
Yeah, no. As a professional driver, you're reading the road ahead, you're understanding what's going on in front of you. It's like a little crystal ball. At the end of the day, if cyclists were to be registered and insured, it would make even more fish to my barrel, because I wouldn't discriminate, I would nail them as well. The ones who go on the pavements, the ones who jump red lights, the ones who salmon up
So
through
you
the wrong
guys are
way.
in agreement then?
Well, it's talking about tax and insurance and all that, yeah? I'm saying at the end of the day, if it was to come in, I'll be up there, I'll nail them. And I'll have them in court. I ain't got a problem with that.
I don't think it need be expensive. I think it's a call for really a sense of duty. And, you know, it's what's interesting. If you look at film of bicyclists in Holland, for example, Amsterdam, it's on the web, you can see how different that is there, where, in fact, the cyclists are very, very low-key. They don't try and break lights, and they generally, in fact, are really very peaceful. Unfortunately, it seems that, you know, in some parts of the world, it's become very, very aggressive. England's not the only place. There are several other countries where, in fact, there's extremely aggressive cycling.
And what are people like when you do stop them?
Oh, yeah.
And they know you're recording, they can see the camera.
Well, this is it. I've had numerous times where they pulled out mag torches, knives and all that silliness. At the end of the day, it's not easy what I do. I wouldn't ask anyone to do what I do.
But why do you put yourself in that
At the end of the day, someone's got to be an active citizen and make a stand. I've got to stand against poor driving. I've been off sick for last year due to a lorry from Romania who was like a cyclist, uninsured. Due to technicalities with the police forces, he got away. But at the end of the day, there's certain people who are prepared to stand up for the cyclists. And it's a dun and grey area, and there's blokes called Olivers who will stand with cyclists and defend us to the hilt. With regard to van drivers getting out and assaulting us, at the end of the day, I had an incident where he stole a £400 camera where I was observing him on a mobile phone. He got out, nicked my camera. So at the end of the day, I refused to waste the police's time. And then
So there's aggressive drivers, but we also see
Of
from
course.
Professor
I mean,
Wilson...
I'm absolutely no time at all for aggressive car drivers or lorry drivers or anybody else.
Yeah.
Aggressive people, but I mean, certainly on the road, particularly not aggressive, because actually that's really dangerous. And the problem is really risk to pedestrians, I think, and in both cases, that's probably the biggest. Because actually, if you hit a car in central London, the chances of very serious injury are pretty minor on the whole. But, I mean, occasionally fatalities do happen. But on the pavement, it's really quite a problem. And I think that, you know, too many colleagues of mine have now come forward and said, look, you know, one person wrote to me and said, I'm now partially sighted in my eye as a result of being hit by...
Well, look, we want everybody to be safe. And remember, as I was saying, we all have to share that road. We all have to find a way of getting on and getting this done properly and everybody being safe. Lord Winston, thank you very much indeed. We'll see where all of this heads. Dave, thank you.
Thank you, Dave.
For your time as
And
well.
thank you for your comments. Keep those coming in. At the moment, I have to say They're not on the side of the cyclists. They're saying far too many.
Stereotyping, eh?
Far too, well, I can just tell you what's here, Dave. I can just tell you what's here.
Cycle loving, eh?
They're all saying, you know, too many of them on the pavements.
Do you know what there's too many of? Cars, full stop.
There are too many cars.
And there needs more people on foot or more people on bikes.
Roll on the ultra missioner zone.
Congestion is a big problem in every major city now,
Yeah.
actually.
Well, what is that called? The emission zone comes into force in London.
Those little darlings
today.
in them 4 wheels, see you later.
Well,
your time's
it's
marked.
in London today. You may think that doesn't affect you because of where you live, but believe me,
Sure it
it'll
will.
come into force in Glasgow, and Belfast, and Manchester, and Birmingham, wherever. It's coming your way. But
Horse and cart.
Horse and cart.
Horse
Maybe
and
that's the future. Maybe you're right there, Dave.